caller.
Thank you.
And love what you've tried to do for California. I really appreciate it. And I think most Californians really, really appreciate what you try to do, too. And when I'm in Riverside County, but they try to hook me up on that Smartomatic machine, and I asked for a paper ballot. And it took them 10 minutes to get me a paper ballot. Then they wanted to hand me a Sharpie. I said, no, I need a pencil. So I know something really, really bad is going on here in the state of California. And I'm asking you to do a forensic audit for the state of California. I think everybody would be really happy with that, Larry.
Well, John, I'm hearing all sorts of stories, and we, of course, are monitoring this to make sure that the election was fair and square. By the way, I carried your county. It took a while, but ultimately I carried your county. And on election night, we heard all sorts of people, Republicans, telling me they came to their voting precinct to vote in person, and they were told they already voted.
Right. I heard that, too.
Also, John, the lines at the polling precincts for a recall election as opposed to a general election, I was told were substantial. People were shocked how many people were there. So at least on election night before the election was called, I began feeling pretty confident, given the fact that people kept calling saying, Larry, I voted. I had to wait for an hour and a half. I had to wait for a whole hour. I had to wait for 45 minutes. I didn't realize the line was going to be this long. So, John, we are monitoring this. I'm not going to exclude that. But, John, thank you very much for the call. I truly appreciate it. 888-971-SAGE. Becky is in Colorado Springs. Becky, you're on the Larry Otis Show.
Hi, Larry. Thanks for taking my call. I just heard that comment from Kamala Harris about the lack of trees and how racist that is in minority communities. And my only response to that is, who the heck has been in charge of the money and the priorities for minority communities for the last 50 years?
Also, I've never seen Kamala Harris's place, but I imagine it's probably got a tree or two on it.
I'm guessing.
Becky, thank you for the call. I appreciate it. Man. Denise is in Pittsburgh. Denise, you're on the Larry Otis Show.
Yes. I wanted to talk to you about the supposed vaccine for COVID. It is not actually a vaccine, as you're aware. But most of the population is not. It doesn't prevent you from getting it. And I have many elderly friends, I'm elderly myself, that are amazed that they end up getting it after they got the shots because they didn't understand that it wasn't a vaccine like a mumps vaccine prevents you from getting mumps.
Well, Denise, let me play you what the epidemiologist said about this, the very thing you're talking about. He said it's a pretty much of a no-brainer for people to take it when if they're in a certain kind of category, an elderly category, as I am in, and but for other people in low-risk categories, it's a whole different ballgame.
Consequences and the adverse reactions to the vaccines. Now, if you're 78 years old, then it's the no-brainer.
I said he's a Stanford epidemiologist. This is a Harvard professor named Martin Koldorf.
View, because the benefits are so great that even if you have a small risk for some adverse reaction, the benefit far outweighs the risk. On the other hand, if you already have immunity from having had COVID, then the benefits of the vaccines is much, much smaller. Even if you haven't had COVID, if you're a child, the risk of serious disease or death is minuscule. It's less than from the annual influenza, which is already very low for children. So there's also, it's not at all clear that the benefits outweigh the risks for children, and my guess is that it probably doesn't outweigh for children.
Don't tell that to Bill de Blasio.
It's a very good question, and honestly, one we need to focus on now. We wanted to get to the day where we actually could vaccinate the youngest New Yorkers and get that rolling. We know it'll take a while. I mean, right now, to use the example of the 12 to 17-year-olds, very good news, we're almost at 79% of them. That's fantastic, but it did take a while. So it's a great question, Elizabeth. It's one I don't think we're going to settle immediately because it will naturally take a number of weeks for that age group to get vaccinated. But it's a question we need to answer for the weeks ahead, and we'll come back on that.
Camilla Parker Bowles says Joe Biden cut the cheese when he was having a private conversation with her. She said it was so loud that she could not ignore it. Maybe that's why Joe Biden says there's a lot of anxiety about gas being up.
Gas prices are up exceedingly high. They've been up this high before, but not recently. Gas prices are up exceedingly high. They've been up this high before, but not recently. Gas price. That's why I have the Attorney General taking a look at whether or not these gas companies are gouging.
Are you high?
Yeah.
Does anybody really believe that?
I am white, so I apologize.
888-971-SAGE. I'm Larry Elder.